Awesome. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, wherever you're joining us from today. My name is Lloyd Edwards with DipJar, and I'm joined by Julia Campbell. Thank you for attending our webinar today. It looks like there's a lot of early birds. A lot of people have jumped in right away, so
Yay.
we'll jump in and get started. A little bit of background on myself and what I do at DipJar. So with DipJar, I'm in charge of customer success and product management. So this is a great opportunity for us to educate our current customers and any other people who work in the nonprofit sector on how they can become a more overall successful nonprofit. So that's sort of where my allegiance is and where my goals are at the moment. We do have a webinar discount for anyone who would like to get a DipJar. It's webinar 58. If anyone orders a DipJar, you get a free portability kit, and that's just until after this, the next couple of days after this webinar. So make sure you jump in quick if you are thinking about getting one. So I'm going to quickly pass over to Julia, but before I do that, we do have a chat available for this webinar. If you want to ask Julia or myself any questions throughout, the DipJar team will be answering DipJar questions. I'm sure Julia can get to questions when she can, or at the end we'll have a big Q&A session as well. So make sure you're asking questions as often as they come into your head. Well, thank you very much, and on to you, Julia.
All right, thank you. I just want to take a second to say hi to everybody from Michigan, Arkansas, Boston, Cleveland. I'm seeing a lot of places, but by far the person that traveled the farthest is Lloyd. He's from Perth, Australia. Just wanted to say that. And we just talked a lot about Australia. It was really cool because I spent some time there. So I'm going to get right into my slides. I do want to let everyone know that I'm happy to share a PDF of the slides after. I am going to put them on my website, and DipJar will have them available for you as well. So let's just dive right in. We're going to talk about specific ways to drive social media engagement from your nonprofit stories. So what does that mean? I just want you to know you're in the right place. This is something that I do. Some things about me, if you don't know who I am a proud mom of two. I'm a returned Peace Corps volunteer. A lot of times when I do nonprofit webinars, I find a lot of other RPCVs on here with me. So give me a shout if you are an RPCV. We're a special crazy bunch. I have been a former development and marketing director. I've been a one-woman shop. I've been in your shoes. I completely understand what you're going through, the struggles you're facing. A lot of you are probably from smaller organizations, and I get it. I actually wrote a book all about storytelling in the digital age. It goes much more in depth into all of these topics, and I'm very passionate about digital storytelling. If you want to tweet today, I'm at Julia C Social. DipJar is at DipJar. Feel free to tweet us, ask questions, take screenshots, throw me some GIFs. I love a good GIF. And we're just going to go right into it. So what are we going to cover today? Specific strategies that you can employ. We're going to look at real world examples from nonprofits that are doing it right. And we're going to review some battle tested tools to rock your digital storytelling on social media. So storytelling, why do we do storytelling? I'm a huge fan of Seth Godin, the marketing guru and best-selling author. The reason why we do storytelling and the reason why stories are the most effective form of engaging content is it really helps us identify ourselves against other people. It helps us say this very important phrase, people like us do things like this. That's why people give to your nonprofit. In the back of their mind, they're saying, people like me, I do things like this. People like us, we do things like this. And stories really help you augment what you're doing and explain it and get more people on board and feel more of a part of a community. Also, supporters want stories. So this is a resource from Classy, and what this study found is that supporters are saying they're craving stories. So here's your social media content calendar right here. 60% of what you share should be impact stories, 17% nonprofit news, and then some upcoming events and some campaign goal progress, which if you're having a fundraising campaign or some other kind of campaign, you should be sharing progress on your goals. So your donors and your supporters are telling you what they want. and they're telling them why you want it. Unfortunately, what happens is we spend a lot of time in the blue part. This is called the fundraiser's paradox, and it's created by an amazing fundraising guru called Marky Phillips, and I included the link on here. Things that we want to tell donors. So what do we end up putting on social media? This is what we put on social media. We're so great. Friend us on Instagram. Here's a sponsor that we had. Here's a photo of us with a check. We won an award. Our executive director was in the news. But the things that the donors want to hear are in the purple. And that's where storytelling really comes in. You can tell a different story around each of the items in the purple. And that's really what your donors want to hear. So I'm going to touch a little bit on some changes in social media behavior and some trends around social media before I go into strategies, because I think it's very important to understand the landscape and how I approach social media storytelling. It's 100% from an experience, expertise, and data-backed science. I'm a big fan of data. So we are using social media less. This is a question that I get a lot. Pew Internet released a study. It's called the Pew Internet, PEW Internet Social Media Report 2018. They found that we are spending less time on social media, not much less, but a little bit less. They also found that personal updates have declined year over year. And they found that we're increasing our use of messaging apps. So we're craving that one-to-one or one-to-group interpersonal connectivity much more than we are kind of broadcasting out to the world. All that is to say, Facebook is not going anywhere. There's the delete Facebook movement. There's all sorts of bad press around Facebook. Trust in Facebook might be eroding a little bit, but Facebook's not going anywhere. It's only increasing, especially in countries other than the United States. It still remains the most popular social media platform. Instagram is also one of the most popular social media platforms. I really like Facebook and Instagram, so I tend to focus on those two channels. I think those are the best two channels for visual and digital storytelling. So, what are some social media changes that have happened recently that affect the way you are seeing engagement on your page? Mark Zuckerberg himself on the F8 Facebook Developers Conference that just happened last week, he said his focus and Facebook's focus is to make sure Facebook isn't just fun, but also good for your well-being and for society. So we need to unpack that when we're creating our social media strategy and figure out what is he talking about. So we all know organic reach is way down, and it's been way down year after year. It's probably been going down for about 18 months now, but in the last 4 months, it's been down dramatically. It's because Facebook wants to increase your well-being. It wants to go back to those meaningful interactions and those interpersonal interactions, and it's emphasizing those over public posts. And we're all seeing this. They're telling us that they're doing this. We know that they're doing this. So what does that mean? Content that drives meaningful interactions is going to perform better. You are definitely going to see a decline in reach, okay? Unless you are following the Facebook rules, which are encouraging meaningful interactions. And we'll talk a little bit more about that and how you can use stories to do that. And then these updates are going to continue to roll out. So we are seeing some initial fallout from this decision, but the dust hasn't quite settled yet. The good news is that Facebook's going to emphasize local news and events. So if there's any way for people to check in to your nonprofit, if you can tag your posts with local tags, especially on Instagram, if you can share stories about local news, local events, Facebook is going to prioritize local news and events. At least they've said so. So, remains to be seen. At the F8 Developer Conference, Mark Zuckerberg, he told us what it takes to succeed. This is nothing new, by the way. This is something I've been saying forever, ever since the full-scale adoption of social media. This is what it takes to succeed. He said it. It's right from his mouth. Publishers and pages that are trusted, informative, local, and inspiring conversation. That is what it's going to take to get seen in the newsfeed, and that is what it's going to take to reach more of your fans and followers and get more engagement. Trusted, informative, local, inspiring conversation. Print it out, put it up on the wall, Of course, it could honestly change in 5 months, but he did say that that's what it is. I really think that that is a fantastic framework for all of your content that you're sharing. So how can you use stories to do that? So what really works, especially on Facebook, and I use Facebook because it's impossible in a 30 to 40 minute webinar to cover every single social media channel. It's also because Facebook has the highest adoption amongst nonprofit organizations, and it spans a wide range of demographics and a wide range of age groups. It's also really a perfect platform for storytelling, for digital storytelling. So what really works on Facebook? Those mission moments and short stories that give a behind the scenes glimpse into what you're doing. Live video also really works incredibly well on Facebook. Facebook loves live video. Facebook's promoting live video. Facebook's sharing your live video. It's showing your live video to more people. Native video, that is when you upload a file into Facebook rather than sharing a link. That works really well too. And of course, anything that is helpful, useful, valuable, or entertaining. That is what works on Facebook. So if you're thinking about that fundraiser's paradox, none of the stuff in the blue is helpful, useful, valuable, or entertaining. None of it. But some of the stuff on the purple side, which is what your donors and supporters really want to hear, can be helpful, useful, valuable, entertaining. So we are going to look at some examples for you today. Authenticity overall. Authenticity on social media trumps every single thing. Trumps slick branding for sure. So your 2 pillars of your social media strategy, it has to be visual. You need to provide valuable, informative information, and you need to focus on storytelling. This is not revolutionary information, but it is something that you absolutely need to do. So how do you do it? So sharing, we'll go through some posts that are sharing informative and helpful and valuable information. So California Hospital Volunteers Association, they're constantly sharing studies to help their people. So they understand their audience and they understand what their audience wants to see and what they're going to find valuable and what they're going to want to consume and what they're going to comment on. Our Health California also comment to let us know if you are a caretaker. Now, there's been some talk about Facebook discouraging posts that actively ask for likes, comments, and shares, but I have yet to see the blowback from that in my experience and my work with nonprofits. So if this is something that's working for you, you're sharing this information, you're creating these communities, you're asking for likes, comments, and shares, and it's working for you, I say keep doing it. So once again, the dust hasn't settled. Facebook says a lot of things. What they actually put into practice, it kind of remains to be seen. Another fantastic way to get engagement, share something that is actually useful that I'm going to want to click and download. So I actually did click on this. My phone is full of screenshots of social media posts from nonprofits. My entire phone, my entire desktop is actually full of screenshots. So this was a screenshot that I took because I actually downloaded this resource. 6 easy and rewarding ideas to get you started. How can you give back to your family this Thanksgiving? So you're thinking about your audience and not your organization. What does someone that cares about the United Way, what do they care about? Someone that follows the United Way on Facebook, what do they care about? They probably care about giving back. They probably care about their community, So think about resources and information that you can share and that you can create that is audience focused on what they want and what they want to hear about. And then, of course, sharing personal impact stories, sharing these little snapshots of what you do. You can always tell a longer story. You can have people go to your website. You can tell a longer story in a video. But I really like what JFCS does. They share in their emails, they share in their social media, these little snippets of stories, and they put a picture, they put a face to what they do, and they humanize what they do. And someone like JFCS, they provide a myriad of services. They provide probably 20 different programs to the community. So how do you put a face on that? How do you really show the impact of what you do? Through storytelling. If you cannot show client details and client faces, you can do what Amira does. Now, Amira is now Amira New England. They're actually Amira Inc., but you should definitely follow them on Instagram, on Facebook. They do a lot of, stock photography. It still looks really nice. It doesn't look very cheesy. It doesn't look, very basic. And they share these little moments. A woman in our safe home is celebrating one that because those aren't their people. So I'm going to give you my top 4 social storytelling strategies for social media. 4 buckets of stories, 4 storytelling strategies that you're going to need to employ in order to get consistent engagement. Impact story, you cannot get away from it. This is what your donors want. Lives changed, trajectory altered, not data driven. There can be some data mixed in there, but it's not data driven. It's focused on the benefits of what you do, not the features. So all too often, I do see storytelling in the nonprofit sector focused on the what it is that you do. So a good example that I'm going to share is a childhood cancer charity that I've been working with. They share a lot of stories of the children and the diagnoses that they receive. So they walk us through, I got the diagnosis, this is what happened, I got the treatment, this is what happened, this is the medication I took, and this is what I did. I want to know more about how people are feeling. How do they feel? How do they feel when they walk through your doors? How did they feel when they left? How did they feel when they became self-sufficient? I want to know more about feeling and less about the actual features of your program. And it's really not about that exact what they went through, but it's about how they felt. And that's when you're going to create these genuine connections with your audiences, especially online. Another great way you can use impact stories is to address any knowledge gaps or myths and misconceptions about your population and your program. So, for instance, I'm going to share some examples, and there'll be some knowledge gaps, there'll be some impact stories in here. What I liked about what Best Buddies did with this update is it started with a question. So it kind of draws us in immediately from the beginning. Like every other senior in high school, Walter faced the same question over and over again as spring rolled around last year. What do I do next? Who has not faced that question, or who does not have a high school student in their house facing that question? And then I love it. Despite his electric personality, work ethic, and broad set of skills, Walter didn't have an answer. He felt stuck. You immediately want to know what happened to Walter. Like, what happened to him? You can't just leave the story there. You can't leave the story in the middle. Even if it's just this tiny little social media post, it draws you in. It's really well written. It's written like an article that you would read in the front page of a newspaper that would cause you to skip or to click or to, go to the third page of the newspaper. Rosie's Place is an organization in Boston that does fantastic impact storytelling. They usually put the links to some of their videos in their bios on Instagram. They post little snippets, and they post them on Facebook. Boys and Girls Club, they do a great job showcasing the youth in their program, telling their story, conducting interviews, and really showing you the impact of what they do and go behind the scenes a little bit. And once again, Amira, I love it every Monday, Milestone Monday. They don't ever use client details. They don't ever use names. They sometimes will use quotes, but they certainly never use identifying details. So if this is a challenge for you, follow Amira. They do a really, really great job dealing with confidentiality. They're focused on helping people that have been in human slavery and in sex slavery and human trafficking. And they deal with a very, incredibly traumatized population. So they're very concerned with ethical storytelling, and they do such a great job at it. So if that's something that concerns you, this organization managed to get a story on NPR, and it was all because of the story. So this organization focuses on addressing knowledge gaps and myths and misconceptions around the Muslim community. And obviously press is a great way to do that. If your focus and your goal is to address knowledge gaps, you've got to get some press. You got to write some op-eds, and you have to get some press for your story. But if they just sent in a press release to NPR, no one, it's not very interesting. If they just talked about what they did, then, reporters are not going to be as interested. But if they say, it started with a sign pinned to her backpack after the election, "I like Trump, you're fired," that just creates an emotional response, and it draws you in, and it makes you want to learn more. Boys and Girls Club created this video once again to address a knowledge gap. Did you know that they served 485,000 youth on installations around the country? I didn't know that. And then they created a little video about it. So your story doesn't have to do all things. It doesn't have to be all things to all people. It just needs to help accomplish a goal. And a goal could be a knowledge gap. Insider stories. I want to hear from your insiders. Who works with you? Who are your volunteers? Why do they do it? What have they learned? What was their best experience? What was one of the hardest things that they ever did? I really want to hear from your insiders. I want to get that behind the scenes insight from the people that are working and doing the work every day. It really also helps humanize your nonprofit brand, which we crave. We don't want to connect with logos. We don't want to connect with brands on social media. We want to connect with people. We want to connect with people. So storytelling, telling that insider story will help you do that. Best Buddies shares a lot of photos and a lot of stories from the volunteers and the mentors. And of course, they do it with permission. They use Repost app on Instagram, and they're constantly sharing all over Facebook. They're also giving, they're acknowledging their volunteers and their insiders and their staff by doing this, by telling their story, by sharing it on social media. They're giving them a bigger platform and giving them a bigger voice. You could even just print something out like Jewish Family Services did. I volunteer because it was National Volunteer Week, and they highlighted a few of their volunteers with this little story, a quote, and they wrote on this piece of paper, and it works perfectly for social media. Highlighting interns, highlighting tabling events, highlighting people that are behind the scenes at your orientations, who answer the phone at your hotlines, highlighting, acknowledging. It just builds community with them, but it also shows people that you are bigger than your logo and that there's a lot of people invested in what you do. So it creates social proof in that way. And then I just like the behind the scenes photos of what really goes on at the programs. And Boys and Girls Clubs of America do a fantastic job of that. Okay, another story, the third one, donor story. This is an incredible, powerful form of social capital. These people are giving you money, even if it's $5 a year or $5 a month or $1,000 a year, whatever it is. Talk to your donors. Why do they give? Why do they continue to give? A fantastic example of a donor story is a suicide prevention organization that I worked with. A man would come in the office every Friday and give them $10. And actually, it's just such an incredible story. So he'd come in every Friday and he'd give them $10. And no one thought to ask him why this was happening. He'd walk in the door, hand them $10 cash. Would never do it online, would never write a check. So finally, someone thought, hey, this guy probably has a really interesting story, so why don't I ask him? And he said it was because his son committed suicide and $10 was his allowance. So every Friday, when he was supposed to give his son his allowance, he went in to the suicide prevention organization and gave them his son's allowance. I mean, what a story. I tear up every time I tell that story, and I've told it 100 times. So those kinds of stories, can you get those kinds of stories? They're truly incredible. And I know your donors want to tell them. Maybe they don't, but maybe they do. This dad was so happy to tell the story of his son and what he meant to him, and how if he could help other parents, so donors really have that emotional connection. Money is very emotional. What does your organization mean to them? Who are the people raising money for you? Holding lemonade stands and doing races and having fashion shows and just donating their allowance. I mean, who are these people? What are they doing? And what is their story? And showcasing what they're doing. And it really encourages other people to say, hey, that's really cool. And hey, I could also do that. So it really creates this community around the donor, because the donor feels acknowledged and heard and appreciated, and everyone else is seeing it and saying, this is really cool and this is something I could do. And it's so much better than just simply putting up a logo And if you know anything about me, if you've ever been on my webinars, I'm on a crusade to end the posting of logos on social media thanking donors. There's so many different ways that you can thank your donors. Like, look at this. Instead of posting the logo from Bob's Stores, which is a big popular store where we live in Boston, they actually showed the furniture and they showed the person that benefited from it. And they said, this is what happened and thank you. Just so much better than just posting the logo. Okay, community story. Influential community members. Why do they support you? Why are they interested in you? Why did they give you a key to the city? Why is there a proclamation? Why do they continue to put you in as a line item in their budget? Community partners also. Who are the organizations that you work with? I know you don't do it alone. I don't care what your mission is or what you do. You work with community partners. You definitely do. Find them. And you can all do a storytelling campaign together. You can talk about why you support each other, what you like about each other. I firmly believe a rising tide lifts all ships. Very important. Okay. Any legislators or politicians or media personalities that support you, you're not going to get in trouble with lobbying if you have a city councilor that's very passionate about what you do and she comes and speaks to your gala and tells the story. We had this when I worked at the domestic violence shelter when I lived in Virginia. We had a city councilor whose sister had died, who'd been murdered by her husband. And so she was very passionate about our organization. And she'd come and always speak and always buy a table at our gala. And she was just a huge supporter of ours. So there's nothing wrong with that. And, you know, you're not going to run afoul in law. Of course, if we said everybody vote for her, that'd be one thing. But we're not going to turn her away. And she was influential in the community and she had a lot to say. So think about some community members that you can touch base with to get that kind of story. Girls Inc., really great job. They're constantly having speakers come in. They're having, you know, influential women in the community come in to provide inspiration and education to the girls that they serve. I included this post. I don't want to throw Boys and Girls Club under the bus, but I thought this would be so much more impactful if we heard from the judges. Why are they a judge? So we see their names and we see their picture and we said, okay, this is really great that they're judges, but why is it important to them? Why is it something they're donating their time to do? I would have loved a little bit of a video or a little montage about the judges and their stories. So as you can see, there are always places to find stories. You have to think like a journalist. You have to get into that journalist mindset when you're looking for stories, when you're mining stories. Always in the back of your mind, what do your supporters really value? What do they want to learn more about your work? Those should always be in the back of your mind when you're creating your content, and especially for social media. What's in it for me? People in the back of their minds are always thinking this, whether implicitly or explicitly. If, you know, my time is worth money. If I'm going to be scrolling Facebook for 5 minutes, waiting to pick my daughter up from her play practice, what's going to make me click on something? What's going to make me like or comment or share it to somebody else? It has to be valuable, informative, trusted, entertaining. One of those things. If it's all of those things, that's great. But one or more of those things. It has to provide some value. It has to be something that I am looking for, or maybe looking for you to provide. And then when you're thinking about those knowledge gaps and how you can fill them in, what does your audience know about you? And then what misconceptions might they have about the population that you're working with? So it's not really about what do you want them to know? It's more about what do they know and what could enhance and augment what they know. And it's difficult because we all have the curse of knowledge in our organizations where we're so close to it. We're so close to the mission. We're so close to the programs. We know what we do. We understand the data. We understand why it's important. But communicating that to an audience that might just think you do one thing or might think you do something else. I remember when, to use the domestic violence example again, I thought this was my first development director job. I was all excited, development marketing outreach director. I thought that it was going to be so easy to raise money for, we used to call them, when I worked there, abused women and children. Now it's, survivors of intimate partner violence or domestic violence. But I thought it would be so easy to raise money for this population. I got a huge wake-up call. The myths, the stereotypes, what people think of what these families have gone through, it was crazy. So I made it my focus and my mission to tell stories to address that. When you're collecting stories, it's really important that you ask leading questions. Don't go to somebody and say, hey, tell me your story. People oftentimes don't think that they have interesting stories to share, but it's also kind of intimidating if I just said to you, hey, tell me your story. I was on a podcast once, and the woman said, okay, so we're just going to, tell me your story to begin and tell it to me in 30 seconds. And I thought, I don't know what story you want me to tell. Do you want me to tell my career story? Do you want me to tell a great memory that I had? What do you want me to tell? Asking questions. When you first discovered us, what did you think? What impact have you witnessed in the community? Ask leading questions. Think like a journalist. Okay, to finish up, I'm going to show you some tools that I use. And obviously, if you guys use different tools or if you have some to recommend, throw them up in the chat. Oh my goodness, and I can see there are questions coming in. So you can put your questions in the chat. I will do my best to monitor them after and hopefully get to all of them. Okay, so your smartphone, that's your best tool. Your smartphone's your best tool, or your tablet, okay? Native videos, take and put native videos on social media. You can take video with your smartphone right now and put it on Facebook. Live streaming video. We can't get away from the power of live streaming. We cannot get away from the power of live streaming for storytelling, and it is the most highly engaged and shared and commented on social media content. It just is. So determine some kind of way to incorporate live streaming into what you do. Your content, your smartphone can be used to create content that is short, sweet, poignant, and authentic. Just a small thank you or a small mission moment, a small, taking like a boomerang or taking a shot of people that have brought in-kind donations. There's a million ways that you can use your smartphone to really build your nonprofit story. And all of this contributes to your nonprofit story. Every piece of content that you're putting out there contributes to your story and to your legacy. Providing in-the-moment updates, no matter what you're doing, at events, at orientations, celebrating milestones, thanking supporters, hugely important. You want a big part of your overall nonprofit story to be that you acknowledge your supporters and that you are genuinely thankful for the stuff that they do. So if a big check comes in, thank somebody. Say, hey, we just got a grant, or, whatever it is. Thank your supporters. Be sure you thank them. Canva, okay? Canva is a desktop platform. I believe it's an app. It's a free graphic design platform. You can do text overlay. You can pretty much create anything from a flyer to an Instagram post. And if you use Canva, I know you're jumping up and down right now, yelling and screaming and saying, yay, like I love Canva, because Canva is pretty incredible. I was going to throw a bunch of tools at you, and Ashley says Canva is the bomb. Yes, but Canva is really the only one that you need, really. I mean, in terms of graphic design. I also like Adobe Spark. If you prefer Adobe tools, you also, of course, can use Photoshop, but I don't use Photoshop. Everyone's saying, yay, Canva, love Canva. I don't know how anyone did their job before Canva. I really don't. Oh, and Eve made a really good point. Nonprofits can register for Canva Pro for free. So if you just go to canva.com/nonprofits, you can register. Just send them your, IRS letter. You can register for free. Animoto, that's my favorite video editing software. You can also create very short and sweet montages of photos and make it into a video. So if you don't have video, Animoto's good. WordSwag is also an app that I use all the time. The best thing about WordSwag is it's even easier than Canva because you just type your words in, you choose a photo, and then it picks the layout for you. So you just kind of swipe through some layouts that you like. It's in a square. It's fully optimized for social media, and you can use your own photos. You can use stock photos. WordSwag is awesome. One of my favorites. Some other tools to engage social media ambassadors, or to get a group of people together and commenting and sharing and really engage. Really, Facebook groups are a great idea. So of course I can't really tell you how to create a Facebook group strategy in just 2 minutes, because it's a really much bigger topic than that. But Facebook groups are becoming more popular, more prevalent if they're organized around a topic or an issue. So your Facebook group cannot be called Awesome Nonprofit Organization. Your Facebook group needs to be organized around a topic or a cause, and there needs to be a reason for it to exist, but it is a hugely popular tool. Gaggle Amp and Thunderclap, if you are trying to spread the word about something and you're using Twitter, Gaggle Amp and Thunderclap work really well to get a group of people tweeting about something. And you can hook it up to Facebook and LinkedIn. I don't think you can hook it up to Instagram, but it's getting people talking about something all at once. So, the Safer Internet Day, pledge your support. So what you do is you sign up with Thunderclap. You basically say, I donate a tweet, and on that day at that set time, they will hook it up to your account and you'll tweet out about Safer Internet Day, whatever the campaign is that you want to be promoting for your organization. So a little bit, and then we are going to take some questions, a little bit about how you can create your culture at your organization that's going to support this. First of all, if you've never done storytelling before, you need to embed it everywhere. You need to do it at board meetings. You need to do it at gatherings, events, any and all get-togethers. Need to start with a story. You need to be collecting stories at these events, and you need to be sharing stories. So embed storytelling everywhere. Create a toolkit for people. You can put this on your website. You could put it in Dropbox if you want it to be private, or in Google Drive. Put some examples of your best stories in there, some links, social media posts, videos, visuals, and then even some storytelling tips in there. Really helpful, especially if you have an organization with staff that's reticent to get on board with this. And then make sure you're inviting your partners to be a partner in this. So too often I see nonprofits creating marketing materials and fundraising materials and creating these campaigns, but they're never actually talking to the people that they're targeting. They're never I don't know if you're targeting donors, maybe you're targeting clients, maybe you're targeting community members. Talk to the people that you want to reach and you want to engage, and get them involved in the creation process. And it's going to save you a lot of work and a lot of headaches at the end. And also, listening is hugely important. Social listening on Twitter and on Instagram is hugely important. Listening to people's apprehension, listening to people's skepticism, giving people a voice, making sure that people are heard, hugely, hugely, hugely important. And then I want to end with this slide because it is the most important slide of the entire presentation. This is why we do storytelling. People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. That's the most important slide probably of the whole presentation. So, right on time, and we're going to take some questions. If you have any other suggestions for apps or anything like that, feel free to throw them in the chat box. Fort Worth, Texas. Okay. Oh my goodness. All right. Will you be sharing a slide to the links? Yes. So I'm going to put it on my website, but also I know that DipJar is going to send it out, and I can also send it out too. Okay. Okay. Someone asked about historical sites. Anne says, our organization has issues with impact because we're a historic site. We're not saving lives. How do we present an impact story? So the majority of nonprofits are not saving lives, right? They're not saving lives. They are either preserving the climate, or maybe they're saving dogs, or maybe they're providing some kind of support organization, or they're doing an after-school club. So you have a story to tell about the importance of the Historical Society. So why is the Historical Society important? Why is it vital to our community? Why is it vital to our culture to understand our history and preserve our history? And that's really the story that you need to tell. I think it depends also on your goal of who you want to get more involved. If you want to get millennials involved, because everybody does, right? Or if you want to get younger people involved, tell their stories, create a small advisory group, and ask them what they want to hear. Ask them how they can, like, what would make them participate in your programming. But just because you're not saving lives doesn't mean you don't have a story, and you're not going to get off that easily. Actually, if you're a historical society, all you have is stories. Now that I think about it, you probably have some incredible stories to share, and you probably don't have confidentiality restrictions like the other organizations. So tell your stories. Okay, I'm going to try to go up. And Julie, I hope that answered the question for you. Yes. So Chad says from DipJar that they're going to be posting a recap on their blog with the slides. There'll be a million ways to get them. And you can also email me or tweet me if you want them, immediately. All right. Ashley says, does anyone know of a way to live stream on multiple platforms at a time? So I use BeLive TV. It's BeLive.tv. And it's not free if you want to broadcast on multiple platforms, but it's really not expensive. It's like $100 for the year or something. And also Crowdcast. So Crowdcast is a little more expensive depending on how many people you have live, but Crowdcast, you can go live in Crowdcast. It's like this. It's like Webinar Jam. And you can broadcast live to Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. Crazy. Or Twitter. I don't remember, but you definitely 3 or 4 platforms. So check out Crowdcast. Sorry, they keep switching, and check out BeLive. Do you know, Lloyd, if Webinar Jam can do that? Because I don't.
Off the top of my head, I'm not too sure, but Chad on chat might have a better answer for that question.
Ooh, Cynthia, I love it. Video thank yous. I just got one the other day for an order I placed online. The woman held a sign with my name on it. Imagine if you made an online donation and that happened to you. That's awesome. And I'm going to steal that idea for my webinar that I do on thank you videos. And Tiki Toki is a timeline generator. I've got to write that down. That's very cool. Ooh, I love it. Have parents tell the impact your site had on their kids for the historical sites. I love it. I want to hear those stories about the wild women. I do want to hear that. Okay. ThankVid. I've heard of ThankVid, a platform to create and manage. Okay. I've heard of ThankVid. I saw them at a conference that I was at. I believe it might have been the N10 conference, and they're amazing. Okay. Let me see. We're a nonprofit, and we do have confidentiality policies. This is Kristen. We cannot post on Facebook or anything like that. We serve the needs of people with disabilities from the ages of 21 to 75. We have a day hab program that is 100% in the community. Our mission is to get all of our members to have community inclusion, be able to do the things that community members do. I'm not sure why you cannot post on Facebook. That might be something where you may need to reevaluate your policies. If you can't tell stories of your clients, you can certainly tell stories of the staff members that work there, or community stories, or people involved, or community partners. You don't have to put a camera in front of a client and have them tell their story. There's other ways to do it. But I do think that you need to be looking at social media as a vehicle for storytelling, because that's really what's going to work. No amount of data and no amount of explaining what you do is going to have quite the impact. But trying to find a way to tell the stories of the other people involved in your organization that aren't the specific, the people with disabilities. Okay, Ashley, no problem. I'm happy to. And Kristen says, and we're just going to take this one question. We live in a very rural area. A very small town. We don't have city busing or taxis. Everything we do for our members costs money. Our members, for the most part, don't have money to spend. We want them to be able to do things others do. So we're trying to figure out how to get people to make donations to our program. I would say exactly that. So I really would do an entire campaign around the impact that you're having on clients' lives and how much it costs. So this is how much it costs for a bus pass. This is how much it costs for a taxi. This is how much it costs for people to participate in our program. And this is the impact. And this is why it's important. We're providing them with a life of integrity and dignity. We're keeping them out of shelters. We're keeping them in their homes. Just the impact of what you do and encouraging the community to step up. I would try to work with local businesses first and then work with individuals. And Bethany made a really good point, and then we're going to wrap up. If you do want to email me, my email's right up here, and I'm at Julia C. Social. But Bethany says, what about clients signing releases? We do this for our nonprofit, as some of our clients or those that utilize our services want to share their story or how we impacted them. Eve, I love it. Offer donors the chance to be someone's bus buddy. That's amazing. Sponsor a bus pass for a year. It costs this. Like, that's such a good idea. Okay. Maybe Lloyd, you can answer John's question and then we'll conclude.
I'm going to jump in quickly and answer. Yep, I'll get John's question. Before I answer that question, just a reminder for anyone who is thinking about getting a DipJar after this webinar, I did make a slight error on the webinar, on the discount code. The code is webinar58, but it is for 10% off rather than a free portability kit. 10% off any order of $400. So make sure you jump in. A huge thank you to Julia as well. This webinar was fantastic. I've been taking notes on my phone as we go to remember everything. And to answer John's question about displaying DipJar on social media, DipJar really thrives on social media. I think
it's very socially, it's very Instagrammable.
Exactly.
It's a boomerang of the dip. I just can see it.
It's new, it's fun. Social media is a great way to target the younger generation, like Julia mentioned. And DipJar kind of already appeals to that generation because it's simple, fast, colorful, bright, personalized. So put as many photos as you want of DipJar on social media with an explanation of your signage behind it. We have a few organizations who will loan their DipJar out to local businesses. So it's a great opportunity to create a Where's My DipJar campaign where, it's with Sal's Pizza today, it's with Joe's Milkshake the next day. So it's a great way to build a community with businesses as well as with your donors. So have a little bit of fun with it because DipJar is fun after all.
Yep.
And to everyone.
Oh, thank you, Anne. Thanks, everybody.
To everyone listening in, we do have another webinar in this series coming up in 2 weeks on the 22nd of May. That's going to be with Julie Freed, who's a nonprofit event planner. As soon as we end this webinar, there'll be a link so you can auto-subscribe to the next webinar. That's going to be a great way to learn about how to set up your event to maximize not only donations, but awareness and getting people through the door. So it's going to have some great information as well.
Well, thank you so much.
Julia, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here. I'm sure as well as everyone who listened in, everyone here at DipJar is going to learn a thing or two as well. So that's always good.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
And a huge thank you to everyone who listened in. We want to do as many of these webinars as we can. We want to educate the nonprofit community, and we want to create a community around DipJar and around nonprofits as well. So we love having guests on, and we love seeing all the questions you guys bring in. So don't forget to auto-subscribe to the next webinar. You'll see the link pop up once this webinar ends. And don't forget, webinar 58 is our discount code for this webinar. It will be ending soon, so jump in quickly. Again, a massive thank you to everyone, and I hope everyone has a fantastic day.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.